The Square Ball Podcast.
It's another summer update from us lot at the Square Ball. Dan, Michael and Chris Mack in a show that is brought to you by Levi's solicitors, who continue their fine work across the city of Leeds and maybe the whole country.
You can get conveyance to wherever. I think that's the right word.
Yep.
You can have your will done wherever. You speak to them on the phone, do stuff over email.
Wow.
They've got all the tech, those guys.
What you're doing is just listing modes of communication now to
fax them if you want.
To mask the fact that you know nothing about solicitor ring.
What I do know is you can get a discount.
Yeah, 10% discount on your legal fees. levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball, 10% discount on your legal fees. Full details, terms on the website. Anything else to add to that? Because that was a little bit threadbare, I thought, that one, Michael.
I'm actually just looking up to see if they do have a fax number, but I'm not finding anything at this. Oh, they do have a fax number. Yes.
That's ace.
Send them a fax if you want.
I was up in my loft.
You've got one.
I was up in my loft the other day and found a fax machine in there. Shall I bring it in?
I think you should just get rid of it.
You think?
You've already brought a dehumidifier into the office, which we don't want.
Shh, don't tell them. They don't know about that.
So, just leave the fax machine where it is.
Right.
Would be my advice.
We don't need to do any faxing to Levi's. We could just send them a daily note just saying thanks for the support.
No.
Just keep pestering them.
Yeah, we'll email them if we need to.
Right. Okay. That's done and dusted, I think. Right, what have we got to talk about then? Well, Bijol wasn't confirmed last time we spoke. He has been confirmed now. Chris, you rather conservatively on the website, thesquareball.net, called him the new John Charles.
I wasn't being serious.
Any regrets at this stage?
No, because he played about 10 matches up front 6 years ago. So, therefore, he's our new John Charles.
Yeah.
He could also be Gary Doherty. He's the only other person I could think of who played centre-back and centre-forward.
Paul
Warhurst was going to be my go-to as well.
But he wasn't a big man, was he? He was
relatively big.
I thought he was quite quick, Warhurst.
I remember him being about 6 foot, I think.
He's not Bijol height.
No, he's not. He's not a unit in the same way.
But as you closed out the article on the website, Chris, hopefully we don't sell him to pay for the new West Stand. So there is a little bit of it,
I think Chris Sutton may have done a bit of centre-back, centre-forward stuff, actually.
Yeah.
His goal against Monza, which I put into the blog, was very good, where he wins the ball on the edge of his own box, and then other things happen, and he just appears on the edge of their box and then slides it in.
It's great. It's one of those where he just sets off and he's like, hang on a minute, there's loads of room here. If I just keep running, no one's going to stop me. And he does it.
I'm quite looking forward to seeing him among all the signings. I feel quite excited about this summer. I didn't want the promotion feeling to end ever, but now I'm sort of gradually tiptoeing. I can feel the momentum building. I'm waking up and the first thing I'm doing is checking my phone for any new stories, anything appearing on flight radar, heading into Leeds Bradford. I mean, today there was a flight scheduled from Lisbon, which was then flying straight out to Hamburg afterwards. I had a look. So
what does that mean?
La Soga.
Could be. La Soga's mum, Michael.
We saw Bijol's mum.
Yep.
People tagging me in the pictures.
Another one for the list.
The full Bijol family were there.
Yeah, his dad's definitely bought me a pint at a christening once. He just looks like that kind of guy.
Right.
Got strong jaws, the whole family, haven't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely granite jaws on all of them.
Yeah.
Good. I like him. He's got a reassuringly large head. Looks like he'd be able to really, really connect with stuff.
Yeah, wow.
So that's gonna be my take.
Searing
I reckon he can head it hard, which I think is useful for a centre back.
Can he head it far?
I think one leads to the other, doesn't it? It's hard to head something hard and not very far.
He loves a tackle, doesn't he, Chris?
Yeah, but he's not as they've pointed out in a lot of the stats pieces, he's not as aggressive as people think he is. He's more of a reader of the game, which makes sense given that he's playing in defensive midfield and, to not to mention it again, up front. Like, you really should go back and, if you can find any clips of him playing up front for CSK Moscow, bizarre, because he's just so big, and he's got the guy Fedor Chalov beside him who's not big. They've just gone for the little man, large man, but purely just picked him going, well, he's big, he can play up front, which you just don't expect from a team playing in the Champions League.
We used to do it with Michael Dewberry now and then. It never worked, and he never started games there. It was always get Jubes up front for the last 10. He'll do nothing. Absolutely no kind of guile about him whatsoever, but he's a big unit.
He's a big lad, stick him up front.
Basically.
School playground rules. There's been quite a lot of noise around other stuff. There's been noise about Habib Diarra, who at one stage it looked like he was going to go to Atletico Madrid, which you would say obviously rule us out. But they are now in for another midfielder. It looks like they've nearly got another one over the line. So maybe Diarra doesn't go there and we pull off a miracle. Who knows?
Well, is this opening an old wound as far as you're concerned?
Don't you say those three words to me.
Or is it the case that maybe Diarra goes to Madrid,
frees up
Rodrigo de Paul, who's then free to join his true love,
right?
Leeds.
Except Marcelo Bielsa's not here anymore.
So what?
Right.
So what? He can still play. He's 31 though now, actually. He's probably past it.
Yeah.
Let's not bother.
De Paul. I know Atletico fans don't seem to like him because he's not very creative in midfield, but sign him. Yeah, cool. Fair.
Actually, despite all the noise around him, I don't really know much of what he's about as a midfielder. I saw some clips at the time when we were linked with him when he was at Udinese, but I can't even remember now. It's too much has happened since.
Who, Rodrigo de Paul? Yeah.
I mainly remember pictures of his tattoos and his dog.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I think of him as Messi's bodyguard, basically on the pitch, his enforcer.
Yeah, but I mean, we do need some more midfielders, don't we? So get one of them.
Right.
Will be my advice.
Yeah.
Get both of them.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't see that one happening. There's just something about it. It feels like a transfer that will be talked about a lot, and then Atletico or somebody in Europe with a bit more cash and European football to flash at him.
Yeah.
He'll go to.
Perhaps a little bit of lack of willing on his part to come to Leeds, but you never know.
Even when he was first linked, there were because it was him and Bijol were kind of leaked at about the same time, weren't they? And they were like, "Yeah, we'll get Bijol." Don't know. We'll try. Seems to be the gist of it.
I know before the 49ers were able to do a lot of their business without much getting out, but is it potentially a case now? Because whenever last year we would hear about transfers, if you heard about it, you were kind of in your head going, "Well, that's not going to happen," because they tend to do these things, in the middle of the night, basically. But now, is it just that the Premier League and the markets that they're shopping in, there's not really a way of keeping that information closed and away from prying eyes in the media?
What you mean is gobshite agents talking to you-know-who.
Not just him. Like, there are quite a few.
A bunch of them.
All the major European countries have a Fabrizio Romano. They're in Germany and France and even Turkey. And I mean, the Turkish team seem to love transfer stories. Like, anytime a Turkish club's linked with a player, it's just like non-stop. If you try and ever look anything up on Twitter, it's about 400,000 tweets a minute.
Well, that actually brings us round very smoothly to the story about Meslier to Fenerbahce, which was touted in I suppose it was the Turkish Twitterati saying that it was almost done. He was likely to go there. There were some reports of the Fenerbahce owner's plane being spotted over here, maybe negotiating for him. Doesn't feel imminent, but then, what do we know? Yeah,
the club have said, no, that's not happened. Don't they? There was more or less seems to be what they have briefed to the press, but I don't know. It's Mourinho there still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fenerbahce. He doesn't seem like a Mourinho keeper for some reason. I don't know. I just think of him as being the most sort of stability-based, keep it simple in defence kind of manager, and having a bit of a maverick stroke liability doesn't seem like necessarily a wise option for him. But
yeah, because the guy that they're looking at him potentially replacing, Livakovic, was the Croatia keeper, and he's like a pure shot stopper. Remember him from the Euros and the World Cup, and he's probably a keeper that you would quite love to have at Leeds, but he doesn't really fit that. But I don't know if Turkish football is one of the countries where it's the manager is very much a head coach and is separate from the recruitment, because some of the players you see going to clubs in Turkey, it's just bonkers, like the money. And I'm not just talking about Kenny Miller going to Bursaspor but 10 years ago on 50 grand a week. Like there just seems to be money in Turkey. So
he denied the opportunity to play with Ryan Kent though, because he's no longer at Fenerbahce, is he?
No. Is he still a free agent?
I looked him up, he's at Seattle Sounders.
Oh, nice.
Seems to play one game for them now.
In the Club World Cup, maybe.
Are they in that?
In it? Could be.
Really into grunge music now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Wow. It's these sort of fringes of the squad players on the way out that I suppose fascinates me now. Like, for example, we were talking last week, I think it was, about what's Bamford's future role here. Does the arrival of Metchub mean that Bamford is pushed further down the pecking order? Because you've seen Bamford, I think, on Instagram this week, very much doing I'm getting very fit ahead of pre-season conditioning stuff. Is that him putting himself in the shop window? Does it mean that he's just knuckling down for another season at Leeds, his final season, you'd assume? Is Meslier going to go? Are they going to retain any of the out of contractors? Sam Byram's out of contract, isn't he, next week? But it feels like that one's probably not going to happen. You feel like, I don't know, would he have signed by now if he was staying.
I mean, his agent has got to be trying to find a longer-term deal or somewhere he's going to play more, I guess. But I still wouldn't entirely surprise me if he stayed. Whereas, like, Firpo he's not officially gone anywhere yet, has he, Firpo?
No.
It's not been announced, but everyone knows he is leaving.
Yeah.
Almost certainly to Real Betis. Whereas Byram, I don't know, it feels like it wouldn't be entirely surprising if next week they turned around and went, oh yeah, he's doing another year.
Right.
Yeah, there's not as much of a rush on that, you would imagine. And I feel like the ball is more in Leeds' court. I can't imagine Byram will be getting too many offers that are worth his time from like a championship club, or like, he might get one or two, but I would say on reduced terms compared to what Leeds would be willing to pay him.
If we don't keep Byram, I hope he gets a good move, like a fun move.
Yeah.
Gets a move to Mexico or something. Just like a completely...
He's not...
a completely off-the-wall thing where you're going,
mate,
he's got to play there.
Did you see the pictures of him in Vegas with the children? He looks completely... He was like a fish out of water. He's not going to Mexico.
He went though, didn't he?
Yeah, but they needed Dad on the trip to look after him, didn't they?
Well, they'd Gilavogi and his cowboy hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, in terms of like Bamford and the fringes and the way out, it will be interesting to see who.
I'm kind of talking myself back into Bamford. Leave. I'm thinking,
is that where you are on the cycle?
We've already spent so much money on him, and I feel like
you're going for the sunk cost theory.
And I feel like it's unlikely anyone's going to take him off our hands and pay all of his wages. So I think, well, if we're going to end up paying some of them anyway, why don't we just keep him for a year? He might fancy it. It's very much his last chance at the Premier League, isn't it, this for Bamford? If it doesn't work for him this season, then he has to probably accept that part of his career is over and never coming back.
The question is, because he was dropped to essentially third choice last season, does he want to, and he certainly will be third choice this season, you would imagine, assuming new number 9 comes in. You got Mecca there, who is going to be probably the bench option, and then is it going to be Bamford as well? It's 9 off the bench, isn't it? So
you can't kill Bamford though.
No.
You've got to remember this. We've had Eddie Nketiah, we've had John Kevin Augustin, we've had Rodrigo. These were all strikers who came in, and you sort of assumed they'll play ahead of him, and he's still here, and he keeps getting himself back up the pecking order.
It's whether they retain Joel Piroud. Would they have 4 strikers for essentially one position? I don't know.
Premier League squads, I know it's 25 in a squad, but I think we talked about it before. We're looking at the players that Bournemouth had out on loan. Like, the squads tend to be quite bloated. So I was convinced Bamford was staying until they signed Mecha, which makes me think maybe he'll go. But there's too much uncertainty still, like especially with Joseph, and then Pero, who I imagined would stick around. I kind of thought Leeds might start the season with him as their number 9.
I don't see it. No.
It doesn't look like it. Mainly because he scored so many goals, and it's very hard to sign a top flight striker who you're in any way convinced by. As you've seen, we're trying to sign Muniz.
Yeah, a lot of money to be spent there, isn't there?
Yeah, it just doesn't seem to have gone anywhere yet, does it? The Muniz thing. It feels like we've kind of named a price. They've named a price, and both sides have gone, all right. Well,
although doesn't it feel to you like, that might be, as it was when Berram was in, he was saying that one might run into July, because they still have time, because pre-season training is mid-July, isn't it? They're coming back. I think they're giving them a little bit more time, and obviously the Premier League season starting slightly later affords them the luxury of not starting on July the 1st. So we've got a bit more time to get stuff done, and it almost feels like, I don't know, the way that the weekend panned out, everyone was just waiting for Bijol to get confirmed. And I'm not suggesting they can only work on one at a time, but it felt like that was quite a demanding transfer to get done.
Yeah, it was ongoing for a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
His medical seemed to take a while as well. I watched the full video for no reason whatsoever. Just basically a man having his legs bent around. Right. And I was just watching the whole thing going, he's very smooth.
It looked very painful.
He did, didn't it? And I was watching him do it.
What did they do?
He was like laying on a bed, and they were kind of just pushing his legs in weird angles and stuff. And I was looking at it thinking, if it was me there, I'm going, injured. That's an injured back. That's an injured knee.
Ambulance on speed dial.
There's my pelvis fully dislocated.
You might be the first person to die during a medical.
We're just checking. We're actually doing it.
Yeah, it did look painful though. Yeah, like pull his knee out and then like twisting it at weird angles and stuff.
Right.
He seemed fine with it though.
They're not just count them.
I think it's a bit different than the old days when they used to get him to like run around a field and go, does that feel all right? Although at points they were asking him, does stuff feel all right? And obviously if you're in a medical, you say yes anyway, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, yep.
It's like resistance machines. I thought I couldn't really work out what when they're shouting like go, go, go at him. And he seems to be, I think it's like resistance for your hamstrings, testing strength.
Making sure they're not made out of cheese strings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looked like a big, strong boy anyway.
Right.
So that was reassuring to me.
That's your eye test.
Well, when we saw Weston McKennie's medical, in fairness, I did think he looks a bit fat. Like he did have a bit of a belly on him. He didn't have the definition you've come to expect of a Premier League footballer.
Mm. And so it proved.
I don't think it got any better for him after that.
Yeah. Left backs, Gabriel Goodmanson was the name that surfaced a lot last week, but seemed to go quiet over the weekend. But again, I don't know if that's because the Leeds United sort of narrative and mindset was all consumed by getting Bijol sorted. But yeah, he's the Swedish left back at Lille, into the final year of his contract, so ripe for a transfer there. Hugo Bueno at Wolves mentioned, Alex Moreno at Villa. Any other names in the mix?
I see Reinildo is being mentioned, and I looked into him a bit because I
the Brazilian lad.
No,
not Brazilian.
Mozambique.
Right.
Mozambique.
Yeah.
We've got a great history with fullbacks from Mozambique. Come on. No, I'm Armando Sarr.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh, could forget his...
the shortest name ever to play for Leeds, I think that.
Will have been, yeah.
Yeah.
But who could forget his role in our relegation to League One? Oh, glorious times.
Reinildo, his contract was due for auto renewal if he played one more game, and that was at the end of March, and they just didn't play him for the rest of the season. So I think that's not me saying that they want rid of him, but they obviously don't plan on keeping him for next year at Atletico, so he would be available on a free. All I've got other than that was that he missed 10 months with a torn ACL in 2023.
Right. Another one of Victor's broken toys. Now, I'd be interested to see what we do at left back, because Goodmanson came with a reputation of being better sort of in possession than defending, which was probably the Firpo issue in the Premier League.
Yeah.
If we're being entirely fair to him.
I almost wonder if they don't find a left back that they really fancy, will they try the Struijk at left back as a defensive left back with Bogle on the other side? And just a more attacking option.
And just turn it into a back three when Bogle bombs on. Yeah, would be an option, because we didn't
the thought of it's the Mo Salah test.
Well,
but I would rather have Pascal Struijk trying to mark Mo Salah than Junior Firpo.
Yeah,
also true.
But I'd also rather have a specialist left back doing it who's capable.
But if we're going big bastards, we've seen Pascal's very capable at set pieces.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by this argument, but okay.
I'm not either. I would rather be signed a left back.
Yeah,
I too. But the players that we've seen so far, none of them really inspire me. Hugo Bueno might be okay, but
I've spent a lot of summers just saying just buy more left backs.
Yeah,
and we've got Max Werber as well, of course, who can play at left back.
Well, they want rid of him, and he said as much. He told the Austrian media that he's been told that he can leave. So
yeah, you get the feeling that's very, very much mutual.
Just the most
every single person at the club,
the most loveless relationship you've ever known.
You're free to leave. Good. Right.
Take the hint.
Let's sort that out then, shall we?
Oh dear,
it could have been so different for him No, it couldn't. Actually, I was going to say had Jesse stayed.
I was going to say functional Premier League players works for me. If we can add that little bit of magic dust to it, a little bit of sparkle as well. But if we're going for Big Bastards FC, then or even just Big Bastards and Premier League capable FC, I'm not going to pretend to know much about Bueno at Wolves or Moreno at Villa, but I know that they're established Premier League players, I suppose, which is where I suppose the appeal holds.
But they're not, though, and that's why they're available to Leeds.
But then Muniz isn't fully established, is he? He's been on the fringes for a while now and unhappy and wants to be a number one somewhere. So maybe is it a case of taking those players from the fringes of other Premier League squads that are slightly higher up the pecking order and then putting them in your first team?
Were we linked with Moreno at the point he signed for Villa? I feel like there's...
It's a name that's been up before.
I'm not sure. I do know we were linked with Hugo Bueno potentially in January of this year or last summer. That's a name that's been mentioned before. It might have been last summer, as a left back option. But Moreno's 32. I was convinced he was like in his one of these left backs who are in their mid-20s. I've never really watched him play before, but
he looks young.
32.
Yeah,
he looks young.
Well. He does. He looks well.
Yeah.
Good on you. It's like he's a professional athlete or something.
Right.
Looks healthy.
Speaking of which, Dan James, very much an athletic young man, and still looks quite boyish. On the verge of signing a new contract, it was reported. Was that the chuck him a bone story that felt like Leeds allowed to be seeded in the last couple of days? I'm pleased about that. I think he's a good footballer. I think he's really come on. And obviously there's another step up here, but we know that he can play in the Premier League anyway. His speed is an asset, and he feels like a better footballer to me since he's been in Farke's hands. I don't know about you.
Yeah, as well, the thing that I always say about Dan James is when he went to Man United originally, he had about 6 months of proper professional experience behind him, and that was in the Championship. Then he had a couple of years in that, whatever that chaos was. Then he comes to Leeds, where it's basically just a year of chaos, and then Jesse Marsh completely screws him over. So the Dan James that we're seeing now is a result of having 2 years of playing week in, week out in a relatively stable environment. So I'm more confident next year of having him on the right wing, just knocking balls over the top and see what happens, because like pace will always win out. He might lack certain other qualities. I do think technically he's got a lot better in the Championship.
His decision making for me is the thing.
So I'm quite excited to see him play in the Premier League. I think he definitely deserves a chance to be Leeds' first choice winger.
Yeah, and he will be a winger as well. That's the other thing. He's not going to have to play up front like he did a lot under Bielsa, which then meant we were all getting a bit sick of him. But what we were actually sick of was Dan James playing up front, because it clearly just didn't particularly work. Yeah. Even though he tried his best there and he did loads of running and he did that thing where he'd clatter the goalkeeper and get a yellow card every single game, which I used to enjoy. I enjoyed that little spell of his career.
Do you know, the daft thing is, Michael, I think he would probably be better up front. If you put him up front now for a game because injuries or other options forced you into it.
One of our 4 strikers is.
Yeah.
All of the 4 strikers we've got are out.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I think he'd probably make a decent fist of it. Now, I think he feels like, I don't know, maybe it's just a case of maturity or, like you say, that consistent run in a team, Chris. I don't know, but he feels like a better, more mature footballer now, and he's coming into his peak years now. So hopefully we'll get the best of him. Yeah,
I'm still convinced it's all about situations. Pete, there's very rarely a bad footballer. Like there are some footballers who are bad footballers. A lot of the times it's a decent footballer in a bad situation, as you've seen with a lot of big clubs who sign players. And then their fans go, well, he's rubbish. And then he goes off somewhere else and plays really well. And everyone goes, oh, well, that's a farmers league. But it's not, not Germany, Spain, France and Italy can't all be farmers leagues. It's the same with Dan James when he came to Leeds. And it just wasn't right. The club wasn't right at the time. So, yeah, I'm more excited to see him now.
Very much so. Victor Orta, binned off by, where was he again?
Sevilla.
That's it. The big homecoming, replacing Monchi, and he's gone. Another job possibly on the horizon for Victor.
I saw this one yesterday. He's been linked with the Real Valladolid director of football job, who have just been relegated to the Segunda and are owned by Ronaldo. The real Ronaldo.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
The good one.
The good Ronaldo.
Not Reynaldo?
Not Reynaldo, no. I don't think he's got that much money.
The guy with the Lucas Radebe tribute haircut.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
So I saw the article.
The one who can go to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Or opts to.
Can go where he wants.
If he wants to. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's allowed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Brilliant.
Good luck then, Victor. Thanks for everything. We'll mention this as well because Dean.
You do wonder how much of it.
Just plug Dean's play quickly.
Oh, go on then,
because we'll have to see it. We're going to the press night on Friday. Cause apparently we're press.
I'm going to write a long
stinging article
for the Guardian.
We're off to see Dean's play through it all together. Leeds Playhouse. You can find tickets on the Leeds Playhouse website. It's about the time with Bielsa, and he's playing Victor Orta.
I think he's got a multi-character role.
Is he a chameleon?
Yeah, something like that. It says so. Interested to see what else he's doing, because I don't think he's actually told us, has he? He's not told me.
No.
He's the Stuart Dallas, playing multiple positions.
Exactly. Yeah. Stuart Dallas could be one of them. He's got a beard. Yeah. Near enough.
He can't do the accent, though.
See how many offensive accents he can get into one show. Anyway, through it all together, Leeds Playhouse from now until a few more weeks.
19th of July.
Good. Where were we anyway?
Yeah, Victor Orta. What do you think he's putting at the top of his CV these days? Because the recent stuff's not great, is it? Well, just ends it with Rafinha.
I think the selling point, which from a lot of the press I've seen about it in Spain, is that he got a team promoted and they feel like he can do that again. But that's a bit facetious, because how much really, other than bringing Marcelo Bielsa to the club, or having the idea to do that, how much of the rest of it was just the Three Stooges being told what to do by Bielsa.
Yeah. It's hard not to look back on that and just see the common denominator as Bielsa.
Yeah.
The glue that held it all together, yeah.
I'd imagine maybe getting out of the Segunda in Spain is a little bit easier when you've come down from the top division than getting promoted with Leeds, 16 years out of the Premier League. But
couldn't do it without him. He told us, outside somewhere. Which ground was that where he was yelling at people? Was that Brentford? It was Brentford, wasn't it? Yeah, when we stayed up. But yeah, Middlesbrough fans didn't like him. By the end, Leeds fans didn't like. Well, at the start and at the end, Leeds fans didn't like him. Sevilla fans don't like him. He's not got a great record, has he?
Real Betis fans love him.
Yes,
they really do.
But he's not worked there. We should make clear. He's simply ruined some opponents.
Yeah, it feels like he's probably in the last chance saloon there, Orta, to me. Don't know about you. But again, not our problem anymore. It's one just to keep an interested eye on, I suppose. But you feel more and more vindicated at having concerns at what he was doing at Leeds, the more you see how his career plays out. And Radrazani linked with buying a stake in Valencia as well. Yeah, I saw. I was going to include it in today's daily email, but I'm not too sure about how true it is. I saw an element of the Spanish media, and it seems to be more like YouTube-y, so I'm a little bit suspect as to whether someone just made it up, saying that he's going to buy 30% of Valencia. Right. With whose money? Yeah, that's what always makes me wonder, because there's a lot of money from Singapore and blind trusts in the I don't know. It just, again, thankfully not our problem, but...
is it still Peter Lim, the guy in Valencia, who's also the Salford bloke?
Although he's sold up now, I don't know, I lose track of it all. Again, don't care.
Scum bastards, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All we need to know.
Completely. So just we'll quickly round up the international stuff, because stuff has been going on. I kept catching myself being slightly surprised to realise that the under-21 tournament was on. Actually, I ended up watching the Italy under-21 game against, it was Germany, wasn't it, where he got sent off. Cracking game as well, to be down to 9 men and score with that free kick, which was the last kick of the game to take it to extra time. But obviously the difference in team size ultimately saw Germany get that one over the line. But he got sent off, did Willie, for 2 yellows. It was a little bit silly, wasn't it?
It was a silly. I think the clips of it that went online, it seemed like it was a straight red card, because you didn't see the referee take out his second yellow. It only cut to him as he was taking the red out, but it was 2 yellows. And it's just not a tackle that you make. You don't slide tackle someone from behind with a minimal chance of winning the ball when you're already on a yellow card.
Yeah,
but
it showed a lack, I think, of mental discipline. I don't think he's making that tackle in the Leeds shirt.
It's a bit surprising he's never been sent off for us, though. He's always looked like he's got one in him, I have to say, because he moans to refs a lot, and he does have a bit of a tendency to lose his head on stuff as well. Like if he thinks he should have had a free kick, he can do the charging after someone, and you can kind of see the booking coming within a few minutes sometimes, can't you?
But did you notice under Farke, I feel like we don't really do any sort of tackles like that anymore. Like everything's a lot more measured and controlled, and they pick their moments very, very carefully when to make interceptions and tackles, because you get a yellow card for nothing, as we see.
Yeah. I only watched the last half hour of this game because I was watching Salernitana versus Sampdoria in the Serie B relegation playout, which got abandoned.
That went mental, didn't it? Yeah.
Salernitana went 4-0 down on aggregate, and their fans just said, I think this is about the right time to start lobbing chairs onto the pitch. So, yeah.
That feels a bit Leeds in the 80s, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, there was an element of 2006-07 Leeds about it, because it's their second relegation in a row, but it was just like, then the referee tried to bring the players back on, and 5 seconds later had to abandon it after they started throwing chairs again. But yeah, I switched on to this and saw Italy were winning, and then saw Willie get sent off. Then they had a second red card for protesting a foul, basically. It was a bit...
It was over the top, I thought.
It was too much. Yeah.
Again, if you're on a yellow, you don't do that.
Well, no, I think you don't give a red card for it either. Like, I think he wanted to be a bit of a superstar, this referee.
Yeah. It was quite preening, kind of strutting around. Yeah.
Although Italy held out for 20 minutes, basically an extra time with 9 men. It did look for a period like they were just going to hold on, because Germany just had nothing really. They just kept knocking the ball from side to side.
Elsewhere in the football world, then, just some other changes. We touched on the potential of Keith Andrews taking over at Brentford, which I don't know about you, but I said last week, as a newly promoted club into the Premier League, that feels about as big a gift as you're going to get from a club like Brentford, I think, at this stage. The setting aside the certainty that they had under Thomas Frank with essentially a complete unknown, It feels a little bit like Mickey Scoobs with us. Like not quite knowing what you're going to get. Might have been great, might not have been, but it's very much into the unknown. And it feels like this, I mean, it might work out, who knows, but this could be the thing that sees them just, bad start, drop down. Who knows? This could be the thing that drags them back into it.
It gives them a chance, doesn't it? It brings them in. It potentially brings them into the relegation picture. Whereas if Frank stays, you think, no, there's basically no chance.
Yeah.
And it's Keith Andrews, which we can't, we can't get over the fact that it's Keith Andrews, really, can we?
And it's the fact that he's been on Sky loads and just seems thick and bitter is the only way I can describe him.
Yeah.
As an analyst for Sky Sports so it's the EFL coverage he's done for anybody who's not familiar with his game. And he seems to be a bit of a Leeds hating bastard, which probably colours my view of him as well.
Yeah, he's just a moan. I can't stand him. He looks like Doc Cotton.
It's the lack of emotional intelligence you see and lack of control you see with some of these people that makes me wonder. Like, so again, going back to Chris Wilder, who's also gone, replaced by Celes, who was at Southampton. That lack of emotional control, and again, lack of emotional control from Victor Orta. Surely you need to have that. You need to have the emotional control and the emotional intelligence to do this. And Keith Andrews always just seemed to be slightly blinkered whenever I saw him on Sky, which is what makes me encouraged and think he doesn't probably have the chops for this. I might be completely wrong, but I hope I'm not.
See, I know before we mentioned whenever this was first mooted that you had Frank take over from Dean Smith. But at the end of the day, that was in the Championship. And I don't think they reached the playoffs that year, did they? So, they sort of finished mid-table in the Championship. Then they got promoted to go straight into the Premier League with someone whose CV as a coach is assistant at MK Dons, assistant at Ireland Under-21s, and then Sheffield United, and then a year as set-piece coach at Brentford. Doesn't really scream manager material, does it?
It'll actually slightly annoying if it works, because it shouldn't. And it's
Exactly,
not,
yeah.
And it's not the sort of shit we'd get away with if we tried to promote from within. It'd just completely fall flat, wouldn't
Well, it's like when Leicester put Ruud van Nistelrooy in and everyone went, no, that's not going to work. Or like Solskjaer at Man United, for example. You go, no, that's not going to, you can see
Although
that.
Actually, did he do a bad job there? It's not got
Solskjaer.
any better since he left, has it?
No.
Maybe he was doing well.
Hey, speaking of Leicester and funny things, I know it's, it's cheap. It's juvenile, but that's why we're here. After all, that's what we are as football fans. King Power, it looks like, are basically going bust in Thailand, and they own Leicester, who are knackered anyway, who are already facing something like a 12-point deduction minimum.
I only realised while reading this what King Power did. I always assumed it was a power company. Turns out it's not. It's duty free.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Because I read it, I was like, oh, so that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, they're going bust. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. I had a little dip into their forums actually. They're generally speaking quite annoyed, but there's one or two people who are doing the pro Bates, pro Chilino thing of saying, "Oh, we need to appreciate these guys more. We need to, suck up to them a bit more, and maybe it'll get better."
Yeah.
So it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah, not a good time for the Thai owners as well, because Sheffield Wednesday are deep in the doo-doo right now. Missed payments to players, and they probably owe HMRC money. The ground is falling apart. You see those drone pictures of Hillsborough that were taken, and people have zoomed in on it's like the stuff like the cladding around the clock on one of the stands, complete peeling away. The girders in the stands are rusting. There's talk that the north stand there has been or is about to be condemned. Yeah,
I mean, when you go to it, it feels. As someone who goes to Elland Road most of all football stadiums, which feels pretty shit. Hillsborough is a proper dump around it. You can see no money's been spent on it for absolutely ages.
Yeah, and if ever a ground should have been updated, of all the stadiums in this country, that's probably the one that should have been.
Yeah,
that's the Leppings Lane stand certainly should have gone immediately, but here we are. But yeah, they're not doing great, and it's also funny. It's seeing the I suppose the threads fraying at the edges at Man United here. They were trying to get their shit together and sign like Cunha for £60 million, but then you've got. What's his face? That horrible scum face. Garnacho, that's the one wearing a Rashford Villa shirt.
Who'd have thought from the look of the man and the way he behaves on the pitch that he's a complete bellend? It's a shock, isn't it? It's a shock.
It's always the ones you least expect.
Isn't it? Yeah, he looks just like such a nice lad.
See, whenever Leeds Under-21s played Man United at Old Trafford and Archie Gray scored from the halfway line, Garnacho was playing on the right wing for Man United that night, and he was shit. He was absolutely awful, and I just remember being like, there's no way that guy's going to make it. And look at him now. Still shit.
Yeah. I think we can just sign off though and say, fuck them.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, great.
Let's hope it drags his transfer fee right down, because
gets into a protracted dispute.
Ideally, yeah, they have to let him go out on loan, get no money for him. That'd be good to see.
Yeah, excellent. Anything final to add then before we head off from this one? That covers off everything, I think, doesn't it?
Until we sign someone.
The hot transfer chat.
You've overlooked Brendan Aronson.
Have I?
Yep. He got an assist in the Gold Cup, which is another thing that's going on. I believe it's a horse race.
Right. Is that correct?
I think so, something like that.
Is he diversifying? looking for a new club, and it's the Jockey Club.
He does have the physical build of a jockey, to be fair.
Yes, that is true.
But yeah, they were playing Haiti,
right,
and he got an assist.
Yeah.
And then they play Costa Rica on Monday. So
excellent.
Well done, Brendy.
And did you see the tweet from the Canada men's national team? Jesse Marsh cleared of all charges, all the allegations disproven. And we'll wrap it up there. Whatever those allegations may have been, use your imagination. It was all very innocent. We'll see you in a bit.
The Square Ball Podcast.